Welcome to this tutorial video on the use of Smart Notebook software to create multimedia presentations for use on the smartboard. The topic of this particular presentation is the use of the line and shape tools in the process of setting up your presentation. Things we'll talk about are where we can find those shape and line buttons, specifically how to use them, which will be by clicking and dragging to create a shape or line. And the click and drag is much like the click and drag you would use to create auto shapes within PowerPoint or Word or Microsoft products. We'll talk about how the shapes enter into your document, into your presentation, which is a little bit different than auto shapes in PowerPoint or Word. Then we'll talk about modifying those shapes and customizing, and then we'll also talk about how we can use shapes and lines within a presentation. With this tutorial, as with those in the series, you probably want to open a blank Smart Notebook file to kind of follow along with the things that we're doing as we're doing them in the video. First thing I'm going to do is highlight that line to where to find the line button and the shape button. In an ironic twist, I'll use the line button to do that. You can see both buttons pretty self-explanatory. They look like a line and they look like a shape, so that's where to find them. If I click on the line tool, you can see I have a number of different types of lines I can choose from. The types of lines are customizable, similar to the fonts, but you might actually customize these. Specifically, if you're a math teacher, you might want to give yourself an array, a line segment, and perhaps a line. I have an array and a line segment here, but I don't have a line, so what I'm going to do is customize one of these tools to make lines. I'm going to click on this blue one here, and once I've clicked on that, I'm going to go to the Properties tab, which I can pull up using this button or by clicking on the tab over on the side. The button works. I'm going to make that line the same thickness as the rest of the lines. I'm going to make it black so it's nice and boring. Then I'm going to change the start and end to be arrows so that it symbolically represents continuing forever in both directions, as a mathematical line would. Down at the bottom there's a button. You can't read it right now, but it says Save Tool Properties. If I click on that, it will automatically save that tool so that it will always be that line I want it to be. In order to make a line, I'm going to click and then drag to create a line. It will auto format to horizontal or vertical as long as I'm close. It'll it'll force to that. You can also obviously make diagonal lines, intersecting lines. I can make lines of all different types and varieties. So that's basically the line tool. Now once I've created a line, I can click with my selection tool to move that line. I can also click on that line, click on the arrow and go to Properties. I could change the thickness, the color. I can change the line, right? I can change the ends. I can do whatever I need to do with the line to make it useful to me in my presentation. So that's the basics of the line tool, I would say. You'd use lines, obviously, to set up diagrams in your presentation. You might use lines also. What I do sometimes is use just a regular line so that I can make sure that things in my document are aligned correctly. Once I'm done using it, then I would just delete the line away so that things are lined up appropriately or at the same level. The shape tool is similar. If I click on the shape tool, I can see a number of different types of shapes that I can select. Click on a shape and then click and drag in your document to create that shape. Before I do that, I do want to show that you can customize shapes just like you customized the line tool. Say, for instance, I have this X tool. I want to make my X's come in and have a fill. So I'm going to click on red. And then down at the bottom is that same button, Save Tool Properties. If I click it, you can't barely see it here, but if I click it, you can see that my X, now has red fill. If I then click into the document, you can see that any red X that I make is going to come in with that red fill. So I don't think you would customize your shapes as much as you customize the line tool, but perhaps you would, and I don't know. I'm going to click on the oval tool here and create an oval, and again I'm going to click and drag to make that oval, and I can make ovals of a number of different shapes. Once I release it, my oval is created, but I still have the oval tool, so if I want something else, I've got to click back in my tool menu and select something else to create. I'm going to go back to my selection arrow because there's something, and this is a way that shapes go into Smart Notebook presentation differently than in PowerPoint or Word. This shape, all auto shapes, unless they already have a fill, which like this red X here, will go in as just an outline. If I try and click in the middle of this, I get a selection box. I don't actually select the shape. So I need to click on the outline in order to move or modify that shape in any way. If I do click on the shape and go to the pull down arrow and select properties, I can now modify it. I can give the shape a fill. I can fill it completely. I can give a gradient fill, meaning going from one color to another. I can use a pattern fill or an image fill, but for now I'm just going to go back to that gradient fill that I had previously. So you can see once I do give the shape fill, I can now select it. Now it becomes a solid. It's no longer just an outline. I can click anywhere in the shape at that point to move the shape around. One other thing I can do with shapes, if I go back to that property tab, is I can change the transparency. I can make it basically see-through. So I can now see through the shape, the things that are behind it. If I go back to that properties menu, I'll change that transparency back. I also can change the line style. I can change the color of the line, the thickness of the line. Right? I can make the outline of the shape appear however I want it to. It doesn't have to be that black of the standard thickness. It can be whatever you want it to be. So let's make it purple. At any rate, that's the basics of shapes. How do we use a shape in a presentation? There's a few different ways you'd use one. One would be to group it with some other thing. You can obviously use it to cover up things, which would be, to me, probably one of the primary things. Let's say you have an answer you have a question, and then you have the answer as well. Then you could order the shape so that it's in the front, and then use it to cover up your answer until after you've talked about the answer with the students, and then you could drag it away so that students would see the answer. Obviously, the transparency makes it so you could do some other things. You could build a Venn diagram with shapes, and then use it to use your Venn diagram as kind of a background to the presentation. Obviously, there's many other things you can do with shapes, and we'll talk about using shapes to do a click and reveal in a later tutorial video. But that's the basics of lines and shapes. Hope you enjoyed.